Hi, up next we've got Ivan from Avantgarde discussing institutional automated index using the Enzyme protocol. So Ivan, over to you.
Thanks, Hassan. Yeah, welcome everybody. So today I'm going to talk about institutional grade automated indices using Enzyme protocol, using the Enzyme protocol, as you can see. I was introduced as being from Avantgarde, which is correct. So let me start by kind of giving a distinction between what Avantgarde does and what Enzyme does. So Enzyme is an on-chain asset management protocol, DeFi protocol that allows you basically to set up permissionless vaults that you can manage as an asset manager, and that into which investors can invest, deposit. So Enzyme is really kind of the infrastructure onto which everything is based. Avantgarde builds products on top of that. So we kind of do the more fancy stuff, I would say, on top of the Enzyme protocol. And as part of what we're doing for the Enzyme protocol, so it's worth to note also that we are the lead developer of the Enzyme protocol. But apart from protocol development, we do add-ons, I would say. So as part, one of those add-ons is basically an index product and a rebalancing bot that we are in the process of writing. So the objectives for this talk are the following. Maybe I should start with actually the big disclaimer here on the right-hand side. So this is a kind of high-level talk, so we will not get into very much details, but it should make you kind of interested in the details at least, so that we can, if you're interested, we can go into more details afterwards. So the learning objectives, as I said, are, so what does it take to build an index for institutions? What inputs are required from institutions to build such an index? How does the communication work between what we build and what the institution provides? How does trade execution work? And in all of this, how do you get your accounting and administration right? So there's various steps that we're going through. Let's start with the first one, or we labeled it as the step 0, actually, which is kind of a prerequisite. So this is using the Enzyme protocol. So before you can actually use it, you need to set up a vault, which will kind of then be the index. When you set up a vault, you can customize a few things. So you can customize all the settings, so the name, symbol of the vault. Vault shares are ERC20 tokens. You can set compliance requirements. You can define fees that you want to charge. For example, entry fees, exit fees, management fees, performance fees, with the details on those, of course. And you can also define deposit and withdrawal rules. So that's all plug and play. Basically, you can go to the Enzyme app, set up the vault. You should be done. If you know what settings you want to select, you're done within a few minutes. So that's really the prerequisite. Another prerequisite, for institutions often is to enforce a KYC whitelist of investors. So even though on Enzyme you can build a vault that is completely trustless and where you do not know the investors, you can have settings for those. Institutions often have KYC'd clients already, and they can basically make use of that. So on the investors, on the institutional side, institutions identify their investors, collect the relevant IDs and documentation, associate the IDs and documentation with wallet IDs, and then can set up a whitelist, which is used by the Enzyme vault. So which restricts the wallets that are permitted to deposit or permitted to receive shares in a share transfer. So basically, restricts the wallets that can hold shares of the vault. So now it starts getting interesting. So these were all prerequisites. Then you can really start defining your index composition and the index rules. And since Enzyme is kind of a very general protocol that suits many needs, we basically leave that up to the institution who wants to build an index. So typically an institution knows best what they want to build. So they do their research into crypto assets. They aggregate assets in classes. They define inclusion, exclusion criteria, define rebalancing criteria. So that's basically the start. So defining your index. Then based on that definition, as I said, we think the institutions know best how their index should look like. So we don't restrict anyone to a given index. But once that work has been done, basically we come to the next step, and that's where it gets really interesting. Is the institution will generate signals based on their market research, based on their quantitative models, based on market monitoring, based on evaluating the index rules. Those trading signals are then sent via an API to our execution bot. So the thing on our side, which is what we built on top of the Enzyme protocol is a bot that executes based on those signals. And signals could be rebalance or in a given index asset allocation, do a rebalancing that could be every day or every hour, every week, every quarter. So basically, whenever a rebalancing is needed, the client would send us that signal, and the rebalancing can be based on the same weights, so non-changing weights, just rebalance because of market movements, or it can also rebalance. It can also be because the index composition may have changed. Yes. One request that we've gotten from institutional clients is that the trades should be not with anyone, so it's kind of not with a blind pool of assets, but there should be AML checks done before the trade. So for this, we have basically, we have various ways. You can get prices from exchanges that support AML checks. So that would mean the user is the institution that builds the index would need to be KYC and AML checked. So that would also mean that then the exchange would only deliver price quotes for compliant trades. The other thing is you can basically look at all potential trades and then just do a pre-trade check. So KYT, as it were, so simulating your next trade and see if there are any non-compliant counterparties in there, and then only execute compliant trades. That may also mean that you need to rely on OTC or more on OTC and market makers. Then the bot itself, what it really does is it optimizes trades. So it takes signals. Signal would be basically go from portfolio A with certain asset allocation to portfolio B with certain asset allocation. Takes those signals, calculates optimized the optimized multi-asset trades. So sometimes you may need to do several trades, sometimes sometimes more, sometimes less, but in principle, so the bot optimizes the number of trades and the trade amounts and looks for best prices on various exchanges. We're also using a gas relayer for efficiency, and we're batching transactions, of course, also for gas efficiency. So that's what the bot really does. I told you I'm not going into very much details, but that's at the heart of building such an index protocol or an index solution on top of the Enzyme protocol. Then the reason, or one of the reasons you may want to do that on top of the Enzyme protocol and use our index bot, our rebalancing bot, is that you get a lot of things for free, or a lot of things basically are just plug and play. For example, the whole fund administration. So for such a vault, for such a fund, an index, you get 24/7 NAV and share price. You automatically also get a historical transaction log, so all transactions enriched with metadata and tags, so you can see what assets you were actually trading at what price, with which exchange, which counterparties, all of that in a downloadable CSV report. And last but not least, there's an automated fee distribution, so fees can automatically be charged and deducted from the fund. Of course, if you want to sell your index, you need to craft your brand. So what you also get as in a plug and play solution is custom branding. Here with an example. So you can get your custom token symbol, you get your own domain URL, completely controlled investor journey, which kind of then leads to AUM retention. So you don't lose assets to your competitors. So basically the summary of this is, if you are building algorithmic strategies, indices on chain, you can run them with us, with the Enzyme protocol and with our rebalancing bot, with our rebalancing solution powered by Enzyme and Avantgarde. If you want to get, so if you're interested in that, we're happy to talk to you. You can scan this or now or later and reach out to me or to my colleagues.
That's awesome, Ivan. I've got a question here. Maybe I missed it. Do you have to be an accredited investor to set up one of these index?
No, so
is anyone able to do it? Yeah,
so anyone is able to do that. I mean, I was focusing on institutional clients here, the institutions who are probably accredited investors and who may already do KYC with their clients. So basically, you can be as regulated as you need to be or want to be, or as non-regulated as you want to be. So this is basically for anyone. Just the example was more on the regulated side, I would say.
I mean, and I'm sure that a lot of the institutions really appreciate the fact that it can be, if I've understood correctly, it can be completely white labeled.
Yes, it can be. Yes, and I mean, after last week's development, I think it's also good to see if you set up such a vault, your investors have 24/7 clarity on where their assets are.
Yeah.
So that's, I think, very good.
Great. So guys, if you're watching and you joined midway through, this talk and the following and previous talks are all uploaded in a raw version within 30 minutes of the end of the stream. They'll also be available on YouTube. And join the Discord if you've got any questions. I know that Ivan and I've got another 5 minutes to go, so I'd highly recommend engaging with the team there. I mean, Ivan, could you talk to me a bit more about, why? Yeah, so I've got a question here that come through. Can we have an in-depth of what's a typical composition of an index? If you could do it in 5 minutes.
Well, so yeah, I mean, a typical, I would say, so there's no typical composition of an index. So I mean, indices, there are various kind of indices, but to give an example, maybe we're talking to one party, for example, that wants to build an index, basically a let's say top tier crypto index. This runs on Ethereum, so you could say you're basically holding Ether and you're holding Bitcoin, wrapped Ether, wrapped Bitcoin in the vault. And you could say basically in a simple way, 50-50, and with monthly rebalancings, for example.
Yeah.
Other would be to kind of hold more blue chip DeFi tokens. So basically the most well-known DeFi tokens.
Yeah.
And but also you can build your equivalent of an S&P 500 if you want to. In DeFi space, of course, everything needs to be on chain. Yeah, so that really the sky is the limit. Yeah.
And are there any capital limitations for building an index?
Capital limitations? How do you mean?
I mean, is there a minimum amount that you need, is there a top floor as well?
There's no limitations. I mean, it depends on you. Typically, it would depend on the asset manager if they want to. They can, in principle, they can accept anyone with any small deposit or large deposit. I guess typically there would be some guidelines. Yeah, but no, there's no limits.
That's great. I'm sure we're definitely going to see Avantgarde and Enzyme being used more often now, given that the recent conditions in the market. So looking forward to seeing what comes off that.
Yeah, I mean, I personally like the complete transparency you have, and you always have complete transparency on the blockchain, but if you do a lot of trades and you do a lot of rebalancings, then it can become tricky to get out the correct information and kind of to present it in a nice way and an understandable way. So this is certainly a method to do that.
Awesome. Well, look, we're about to wrap up now. Ivan, I want to thank you again for taking the time joining this digital conference. So note again to anyone who's watching, these sessions are recorded and the raw version will be live in 30 minutes. And then there'll be an online version on YouTube over the next couple of days. I put a link into the Discord, Trading Track 3, to the face-to-face, where if you've got any direct questions you want to ask Ivan, you can do so there. I'm sure he'll be joining shortly after. So Ivan, finally, thanks again, and looking forward to what
thank you also
and the Enzyme product.
Thank you. Don't hesitate to reach out.
Months and years. All right.
Thanks.
Awesome.